Hey there, welcome to Music Worth Buying. I'm Batman. No, I'm TJR, I'm a musician and I'm a music writer.
And my name is Robert Kinsler and I'm a music writer and a musician.
And this is our companion episode to our 2014 year-end episode where we talked about our top 5 and a few other things. And this is going to be basically reissues in 2014.
Right.
And you were telling me you wanted to do this episode because you felt there were just a lot of great reissues that you want to talk about. And you're more exposed to this sort of stuff because you do write for a paper.
Right.
So more of this is made available for you.
Right, exactly. And it didn't occur to me till about a week ago. I go, oh my gosh, this has been such an exceptional year for reissues. Just some great bands, great artists, and then also some of their most outstanding albums have come back into the forefront via remastered, reissued albums. I mean, some we've featured on the show.
Yeah.
Some we have not featured on the show before. So I thought we'd just do a brief episode, maybe highlight some of these, because it's so hard for us to get to everything, you know, on our episodes.
And these are going to be some of your favorites. I'm going to discuss a few things too, but let's just go ahead. You go ahead and I want you to start with this.
And actually, I know we like to work up, but why don't we start with Old 97s, whose shirt I'm wearing, with the band's Hitchhike to Rome, which was their debut, came out 20 years ago. It came out in 1994. It's been remastered and reissued as an expanded 2-disc collection, and I am telling you, this is just unbelievable. If this was a new album, it would have been my #1 album of the year. Just fantastic. You know, I've fallen in love with the Old 97s over the last few years after seeing them a few times, but I wasn't really that familiar with this album. Got it in the mail, put it in. Epic from the first play, and every time I go back and re-listen to it, just I hear new things, exciting things. I just love this album, and I know we're not going to be playing part of any tracks today, but I really recommend that if you've heard us talk about it, if you've go to Spotify, go wherever, listen to a little bit of the Old 97s, and you will want this. It has the original album remastered, and then it also has a bunch of demos and previously unreleased tracks on a second disc.
Had you heard? You said you were not that familiar with it. Had you heard any of it prior to
this?
Yeah,
of course I was. Some of these songs like Miss Molly and what's the other one? Leaf Clover or 4-Leaf Clover. These are classic songs that you always hear the band do live.
Okay, you heard them live, but you never heard the album itself.
I hadn't heard the album itself. Yeah, so going back and listening to it here, and it's so vibrant and just fantastic.
You were saying to me, because when we were discussing about doing this show, you were saying to me that it felt to you like they were drunk, or like they were just
well, I said I could just imagine them being drunk. This album was recorded in 3 days.
3 days. Okay.
3 days. I guess it was in Dallas, which is where the band's from, and it was rainy or something. It was unusually bad weather. I could just see them probably drinking beers in the studio or something like that. And I don't know that. Maybe they were, totally sober. But the album is just so raucous, and it's like the band already had their bearings. They were already, it's like you talk about like a band like the Doors' first album. The band already was exceptional.
It was like they'd been together for years. Same thing when you hear the first Led Zeppelin album. It feels like they've already been together for years, even though they hadn't been together that long.
And some bands, the first album or two are not that great. This is one of those albums where the band is great from the first time they went into the studio, for my ear. I mean, it's just great. And there's sometimes when they're doing like bluegrass on steroids, and I go, wow, I kind of thought Trampled by Turtles invented that kind of thing. Years later, well, you hear it here back in '94 on Hitchhike to Rome. It's all there.
So they don't sound drunk; they sound tight.
Oh yeah,
but there is a sense of in-your-face kind of party rock and roll.
Yeah, party rock and roll, and it's alt country, but it's also, like you said, heavier emphasis on kind of on the when you say alternative rock
on
country,
on
the grit and the rock and roll side of things is there. Great guitar solos, just really blistering vocals. They just sound great.
Because after hearing Most Messed Up, I want to hear this too. Then
you'll want to hear it, and like I said, when I play this, it's just it's funny because maybe they're doing something like you'd say like party rock, but the songs are so inventive. I mean, like when they modulate to this break or that section and stuff, it's just so well done, and it's like they're coming off as seasoned masters, even though this is their first album and they're all very young here. You know, just great.
And the name of this album is
Hitchhike to Rome.
Hitchhike to Rome. Okay, so there we go. So what else you got for us?
Well, and then also now the Jayhawks are another Americana band, although very different than Old 97s. And 3 of their albums, the ones that came out between 1997 and 2003, have come out as remastered deluxe editions with bonus tracks, and they just sound terrific. And the Jayhawks have got back together. They're currently on tour, and so I would encourage people, go see them on tour if you can, because they're fantastic. I saw them at the Stagecoach Festival a few years ago, and I'm planning on going to see them in early 2015. Mm-hmm. But all 3 of these discs, Rainy Day Music, Sound of Lies, and Smile, are just terrific. These songs, unless you're a big fan of the band, you may not know their music, but they kind of combine what Big Star did with maybe kind of what the Byrds have done in terms of just these really amazing harmonies. Mm-hmm. You know, just sweet music, just lush arrangements, but just very authentic and just emotional music, just great.
Now these reissues here, these are...
And there's some information in there on there too.
These are their first 3 albums?
No, they're not. No, these are not the...
Okay.
But this was considered kind of like a golden period of the band. You know?
Okay.
So these are not
some of their most popular albums.
Some of their most popular albums, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do these come with additional bonus tracks?
Yes,
then?
they do. Yeah,
okay,
they come
bonus tracks that the original albums didn't have.
If you have the original albums, I would say trade those in and buy these, so you get the original albums sounding better than ever, and with the bonus material.
Definitely some improved audio there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and recommend all those, and their previous albums that have been I think they've had a couple other reissues that came out maybe a year or so ago, and those I recommend too.
Okay. I'm going to briefly interrupt you then and talk about a few quick reissues on my own, and let you then get back to yours then.
Okay.
And so now I already did one where I discussed both Venus and Mars and Wings at the Speed of Sound. These are part of course, Paul McCartney has been, of course, remastering and reissuing his albums with, remastered audio and bonus discs as well. And both of these I felt were really worth getting from the Wings era. I think all of the so far all the Wings ones that have been come out have been really worth getting. They both had improved audio from their originals. Personally, I felt that Venus and Mars was just the better album to begin with. But I felt that Wings at the Speed of Sound definitely had the better bonus discs. It had more of those early demo versions of the songs on the album, whereas this one only had really an early version of Rock Show, and that's it. I was hoping to hear more early demos. Instead, we get a lot of, and I'm not saying they're not good, but we get a lot of extra B-sides, unreleased tracks, demos of songs that never came to be here. But here we get a lot of those early demos of the songs from the actual album. But both of these I thought were if you like these albums, these were both worth re-getting, getting into your collection. Another set of reissues I'll talk about, which I did talk about on the show, but I'm just going to briefly discuss them, was of course the Led Zeppelin reissues. What's good about these Led Zeppelin reissues is they're preserving, in many respects, preserving the original packaging of those original albums. What's not good about them is I don't feel there was any huge improvement in audio quality. The bonus discs are kind of hit and miss as far as the extra material. There are some interesting alternate mixes, alternate takes. There are some that are just, I don't hear much difference between, they're just kind of like, oh, okay, I think I'll listen to that once, but I'll go back to the studio cuts. Whereas I felt like these re-releases are must-haves if you have the originals. I felt like the Led Zeppelin reissues are not must-haves if you have previous versions. I would say they're just stream-its. Just stream the bonus disc, because I don't think you're getting anything additional audio-wise from these remasterings. Now, of course, if you don't own the Led Zeppelin albums, go ahead and get these new versions, because you're going to get that bonus disc, and the audio quality is as good as what was done previously, so you might as well get them, as opposed to a previous version. But otherwise, if you already have them, just stream. If you have Spotify or Beats Music, if you're subscribed to one of those, have a subscription, just go ahead and stream the bonus disc, because I don't think you're getting anything audio extra from the disc. But here, if you already own these are definitely worth re-getting. So,
and I think it's impressive, like you're saying, that Paul has, and I guess it's called his Paul McCartney Archive Collection, and he obviously is really concerned with trying to give fans, a great sounding disc with some nice bonus material on it.
Expanded packaging as well, I should mention. Much more expanded packaging as far as the booklets and everything else as to how these are done. That's the only good thing about the Led Zeppelin ones, is that the packaging does try very hard to replicate what you got in those original vinyl releases.
Which is great. Yeah. And one reissue I just picked up, so I can't talk too much about it, but as it's expanded, it's one of my favorite Roy Orbison albums. It's his final studio album, Mystery Girl.
Yeah.
And it's called Mystery Girl Expanded. I wasn't even aware this was out. I just saw it a week or so ago, picked it up, so I wanted to alert people too. If you're, the album is terrific. I did just pop in the disc before we shot today. It sounds fantastic. I don't know how much, if it was remastered or just reissued, but when I put the disc in, it sounded terrific. So I would encourage everyone, like I'm going to do, go ahead and do some reading on it. And if you're a fan of Roy Orbison, it is great to know that there are some bonus material on here. So, which is nice. It looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bonus tracks on here, so that's great. But it is such a terrific album. If you don't own it, I say go ahead and get it.
Now's the time to get it.
Yeah. And then previously we've already featured them as the first 2 Big Star albums that came out in the 1970s have been reissued in the original form.
Yeah.
And again, if you're not familiar with Big Star, another band that you should get to know a little bit, whether you love them or don't like them, but at least give them a try. They're so important in the history of power pop. They pretty much are single-handedly kind of created bands like Cheap Trick that came after them, or REM and stuff, all owe an extreme amount of debt to what Big Star kind of did in the 1970s and paved the way for bands that came out later in that decade, and especially in the 1980s.
Some of the unsung heroes.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's been, and there's been other reissues this year. I mean, there's been some live things that have been rediscovered, like even an old Hank Williams radio concerts, I think from 1950s came out. Scruffy the Cat, Game Theory. I mean, there were so many. Hardly a week went by when I wouldn't get another great reissue in the mail, and it's like, wow, these are a great year for reissues and rediscovering some older albums that have kind of now, with thanks to great technology, they sound better than ever too.
Cool. So there we go. So there's just kind of a brief sampling of some of the 2014 reissues. And don't forget to watch our companion show, our year-end episode, where we discuss our top 5, talk a little bit about some of the things about the trends of this last year, and a few extra surprises.
Yeah.
So we want to thank you very much for watching. Thank you for sharing the show on Facebook and Twitter, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And
leave us comments and feedback. We always love to hear from everybody.
Let us know about your favorite reissues.
Yeah.
Let us know about your favorite reissues that maybe we didn't find out about, because there's so much stuff out there and we need to share it. So thank you for watching, and have a Happy New Year.
See you later, everybody.
Bye.